The Galactic Union was on the brink of collapse. For years, the ruthless Karn Empire had waged war across the stars, their fleets cutting through Union defenses like a blade through paper. The Union's leaders, desperate for a solution, turned to their brightest minds, but even the most advanced ships and weapons were no match for the Karn's relentless onslaught. In the midst of this chaos, a small group of engineers on a remote Union outpost proposed a radical idea, a warship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It would be massive, heavily armed, and equipped with experimental technology. But most importantly, it would be built not by the Union's top shipyards, but by a ragtag team of misfits and dreamers. The Union's leaders scoffed at the idea. A warship built by amateurs? Preposterous, they said. But with no other options left, they reluctantly approved the project, providing minimal funding and resources. The engineers, undeterred by the lack of support, threw themselves into their work. They scavenged parts from derelict ships, repurposed old technology, and even invented new systems from scratch. The ship, which they called the Eternal Dawn, began to take shape, a hulking, patchwork behemoth that looked more like a floating junkyard than a warship. As the Eternal Dawn neared completion, the Karn Empire launched a massive assault on a key Union system. The Union's fleet, outnumbered and outgunned, was on the verge of annihilation. The engineers, knowing this might be their only chance, rushed to finish the ship. On the day of the battle, the Eternal Dawn emerged from the shadows, its hull gleaming under the light of a distant star. The Union fleet, seeing the strange ship for the first time, was filled with doubt. "What is that thing?" one captain asked. "It looks like it'll fall apart at the first shot." But the engineers had faith in their creation. As the Karn fleet closed in, the Eternal Dawn activated its experimental systems. A low hum filled the ship, growing louder and more intense. The Karn, confident in their victory, opened fire, their energy beams streaking toward the Union fleet. But the Eternal Dawn was ready. Its shields, powered by a revolutionary energy core, absorbed the attacks with ease. The ship's weapons, a mix of salvaged cannons and experimental railguns, roared to life, tearing through the Karn ships with devastating precision. The Union fleet, inspired by the Eternal Dawn's performance, rallied behind it. Together, they pushed back the Karn, forcing them into retreat. As the battle ended, the Union's leaders watched in stunned silence. The ship they had dismissed as a foolish dream had just turned the tide of war. But the fight was far from over. The Karn Empire would not take this defeat lightly, and the Eternal Dawn would soon face its greatest test. The victory at the Battle of Cygnus Prime was a turning point for the Galactic Union. The Eternal Dawn, once dismissed as a joke, had proven itself a formidable force. News of its triumph spread like wildfire, boosting morale across Union-held systems. But for the crew of the Eternal Dawn, the celebration was short-lived. The ship, though powerful, was far from perfect. Its experimental systems were unstable, and the strain of battle had left it in need of repairs. The engineers worked around the clock, patching up the damage and fine-tuning the ship's systems. But they knew the Karn Empire would not wait for them to be ready. The Karn, furious at their defeat, had already begun mobilizing their forces. Their leaders, determined to crush the Union once and for all, sent a massive armada to hunt down the Eternal Dawn. The Union's leaders, now fully aware of the ship's potential, ordered the Eternal Dawn to lead the defense. The captain, a grizzled veteran with a no-nonsense attitude, accepted the mission without hesitation. But the crew, many of whom had never seen combat before, were less confident. As the Eternal Dawn prepared for battle, the engineers made a startling discovery. Hidden deep within the ship's systems was a dormant AI, its programming far more advanced than anything they had ever seen. The AI, which called itself Aegis, claimed to have been created by an ancient civilization to protect the galaxy from threats like the Karn Empire. The engineers, intrigued but cautious, activated Aegis. The AI immediately began analyzing the ship's systems, making adjustments and optimizations with lightning speed. "Your ship is impressive," Aegis said, its voice calm and measured. "But it can be so much more." With Aegis's help, the engineers upgraded the Eternal Dawn systems, boosting its shields, weapons, and engines to levels far beyond their original design. But the AI's true potential lay in its ability to predict enemy movements and adapt to changing battle conditions. As the Karn Armada closed in, the crew of the Eternal Dawn braced themselves for the fight of their lives. The captain, standing on the bridge, addressed the crew. "This ship was built by dreamers and fighters," he said. "It's more than just a weapon, it's a symbol of hope. And today, we're going to show the galaxy what hope can do." The battle began with a deafening roar as the Karn fleet opened fire. The Eternal Dawn, guided by Aegis, moved with precision, dodging attacks and returning fire with devastating accuracy. Its shields absorbed the worst of the Karn's assault, while its weapons tore through their ships like paper. But the Karn were not easily defeated. Their flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons, moved into position, its main cannon charging with an ominous glow. The captain turned to Aegis. "Can we take it?" Aegis's response was immediate. "Yes. But it will require all of our resources." The Eternal Dawn surged forward, its engines roaring as it closed the distance to the dreadnought. The Karn flagship fired its main cannon, a beam of energy so powerful it could vaporize an entire planet. But the Eternal Dawn, guided by Aegis, dodged the attack at the last second, its shields flaring as it absorbed the residual energy. With a final, concentrated burst of fire, the Eternal Dawn struck the dreadnought's core, causing a chain reaction that tore the massive ship apart. The Karn fleet, now leaderless, began to retreat. The crew of the Eternal Dawn cheered, their voices filled with relief and triumph. But as they watched the Karn ships disappear into hyperspace, they knew the war was far from over. The Eternal Dawn had won another battle, but the fight for the galaxy was just beginning. The Eternal Dawn returned to Union space as heroes. The ship, once ridiculed and dismissed, was now a symbol of hope and resilience. Crowds gathered at every port to catch a glimpse of the legendary warship, and its crew was celebrated across the galaxy. But for the engineers and the captain, there was little time to bask in the glory. The Karn Empire, though temporarily pushed back, was far from defeated. Their leaders, furious at the repeated losses, had begun developing new weapons and strategies to counter the Eternal Dawn. The Union's intelligence network reported sightings of Karn fleets massing near key systems, and rumors of a superweapon capable of destroying entire planets began to circulate. The captain, ever vigilant, knew they couldn't afford to rest. "The Karn won't stop until they've crushed us," he said during a meeting with the engineers. "We need to stay one step ahead." The engineers, with Aegis's assistance, began working on new upgrades for the ship. They reinforced the hull, improved the energy core, and added advanced sensor arrays to detect Karn movements. But the most ambitious project was a new weapon system. A gravity pulse cannon capable of disrupting enemy formations and disabling their ships without destroying them. As the Eternal Dawn underwent its upgrades, the Union's leaders called for a strategy meeting. The captain and a small delegation traveled to the Union's capital, where they were met with both admiration and skepticism. "The Eternal Dawn has given us hope," one of the leaders said. "But we can't rely on a single ship to win this war. We need a fleet of ships like it." The captain nodded. "We're working on it. But building ships like the Eternal Dawn takes time and resources. For now, we need to focus on defending our key systems and gathering intelligence on the Karn's plans." The meeting ended with a renewed commitment to the war effort, but the captain couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Back on the Eternal Dawn, the engineers completed the gravity pulse cannon and began testing it in a remote system. The weapon, though still experimental, showed incredible potential. Its pulses disrupted the gravity fields of nearby objects, causing enemy ships to lose control without causing permanent damage. But as the tests continued, Aegis detected an anomaly, a faint signal coming from deep within the system. The engineers, curious, followed the signal to its source, a derelict space station, its hull covered in strange markings. The crew boarded the station, their weapons at the ready. Inside, they found a treasure trove of ancient technology, including a device that appeared to be a prototype for a hyperspace disruptor. Aegis analyzed the device and confirmed its potential. "This could give us a significant advantage against the Karn," the AI said. The engineers, excited by the discovery, brought the device back to the Eternal Dawn and began integrating it into the ship's systems. But as they worked, Aegis issued a warning. "The Karn are approaching. They've detected our presence." The captain, his face grim, ordered the crew to prepare for battle. The Eternal Dawn, now equipped with its new weapons and upgrades, moved to intercept the Karn fleet. As the two forces closed in, the captain turned to Aegis. "This is it. Let's show them what we're made of." The Eternal Dawn surged forward, its gravity pulse cannon charging as it prepared to unleash its full power. The Karn fleet emerged from hyperspace, their ships forming a menacing wall of steel and firepower. At the center of their formation was a massive carrier, its hull bristling with fighters and weapons. The Eternal Dawn, though outnumbered, stood its ground, its crew ready for the fight. The captain, standing on the bridge, addressed the crew. "This is what we've been preparing for. Stay focused, follow Aegis's guidance, and we'll get through this." The battle began with a deafening roar as the Karn opened fire. The Eternal Dawn's shields flared under the onslaught, but they held firm. Aegis, analyzing the enemy's movements in real time, directed the ship's defenses with precision. "Gravity pulse cannon ready," the weapons officer announced. "Fire," the captain ordered. The cannon unleashed a wave of energy, disrupting the gravity fields around the Karn ships. Fighters spiraled out of control, and larger vessels struggled to maintain their formations. The Union fleet, emboldened by the Eternal Dawn's success, moved in to capitalize on the chaos. But the Karn were not easily defeated. Their carrier launched a swarm of drones, each equipped with powerful explosives. The drones closed in on the Eternal Dawn, their movements erratic and unpredictable. Aegis, its systems working at full capacity, identified a pattern in the drone's behavior. "Focus fire on the carrier," the AI advised. "The drones are being controlled from there." The captain nodded. "All weapons, target the carrier." The captain studied the map, his brow furrowed. "We need to hit them before they're ready. But with the Eternal Dawn in this state, we're not in any condition to take on another fleet." One of the engineers, a young woman with a knack for creative solutions, spoke up. "What if we don't fight them head-on? What if we disrupt their plans instead?" The captain raised an eyebrow. "Go on." The engineer explained her idea, a covert mission to sabotage the Karn supply depots near the Orion Rift. Without fuel, ammunition, and spare parts, the Karn fleet would be unable to launch their offensive. "It's risky," the captain admitted. "But it might be our best shot. Aegis, can we pull this off?" Aegis analyzed the plan, its systems whirring softly. "The probability of success is 47%. However, if we can infiltrate their network and disable their defenses, the odds increase significantly." The captain nodded. "Then we'll do it. Prepare a small team for the mission. The rest of the crew will stay here and continue repairs." The team, consisting of the engineer, a seasoned pilot, and 2 combat specialists, boarded a small, stealth-equipped shuttle. The Eternal Dawn's hangar doors opened, and the shuttle slipped silently into the void, its cloaking device activated. The journey to the Orion Rift was tense. The shuttle avoided detection by staying off the main hyperspace routes and using natural phenomena like asteroid fields and nebulae for cover. As they approached the Karn supply depot, the team prepared for the most dangerous part of the mission. The depot was heavily guarded, with patrols and automated defenses scanning the area. The shuttle's pilot, using all their skill, maneuvered the small craft through the defenses, landing it on the depot's outer hull. The team, clad in stealth suits, moved quickly and quietly. They planted explosives on the depot's fuel tanks and hacked into its control systems, disabling the defenses and triggering a cascade of failures. As alarms blared and the depot began to collapse, the team returned to the shuttle. The pilot, their hands steady on the controls, launched the craft and activated its cloaking device just as Karn fighters arrived to investigate. Back on the Eternal Dawn, the crew watched anxiously as the shuttle approached. When it finally docked, the team was greeted with cheers and applause. The captain, a rare smile on his face, addressed the crew. "You've given us a fighting chance. Now, let's finish repairing this ship and get ready for what's next." The Eternal Dawn, though still damaged, was alive with activity. The crew, inspired by the mission's success, worked with renewed energy. But as they prepared for the battles to come, they knew the Karn would not take this lightly. The war was far from over. The sabotage of the Karn supply depot bought the Union precious time. The Karn offensive was delayed, and their fleets were forced to regroup. But the Eternal Dawn's crew knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The Karn would return, and when they did, they would come with everything they had. The engineers, working tirelessly, managed to restore the Eternal Dawn to near full functionality. The ship's hull was reinforced, its weapons upgraded, and its shield strengthened. Aegis, now fully integrated into the ship's systems, continued to optimize its performance, ensuring it was ready for the battles ahead. The captain, his confidence renewed, called a meeting with the crew. "We've struck a blow against the Karn, but this war isn't over. We need to take the fight to them, to show them that we're not just defending, we're fighting back." The crew, inspired by the captain's words, prepared for their next mission. The Eternal Dawn, now a symbol of hope and defiance, set course for the Karn's forward base near the Orion Rift. As they approached the base, Aegis detected a massive energy signature. "The Karn have deployed a new weapon," the AI warned. "It appears to be a planet killer, a device capable of destroying entire worlds." The captain's face hardened. "We can't let them use it. Aegis, plot a course to intercept. We'll take it out before it's operational." The Eternal Dawn surged forward, its engines roaring as it closed the distance to the Karn base. The enemy fleet, caught off guard, scrambled to defend the weapon. The battle was fierce. The Eternal Dawn's weapons tore through the Karn ships, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. The ship's shields flickered under the relentless assault, and its hull groaned under the strain. Finally, the Eternal Dawn reached the planet killer. The crew, working with Aegis, targeted its weak points and unleashed a barrage of fire. The massive weapon exploded in a blinding flash, its destruction sending shockwaves through the Karn fleet. The Karn, their plans in ruins, began to retreat. The Eternal Dawn, though battered and bruised, had won another victory. But as the crew celebrated, the captain looked out at the stars, his expression thoughtful. The war was far from over, and the Eternal Dawn would be ready. The destruction of the Karn's planet killer was a turning point in the war. The Union, inspired by the Eternal Dawn's victories, launched a counteroffensive, pushing the Karn back on multiple fronts. The legendary warship, once dismissed as a foolish dream, had become the symbol of the Union's resilience and determination. But for the crew of the Eternal Dawn, there was no time to rest. The Karn, though weakened, were not defeated. Their leaders, desperate to regain the upper hand, began deploying new weapons and tactics, forcing the Union to adapt. The Eternal Dawn, now fully repaired and upgraded, continued to lead the charge. Its crew, battle-hardened and united, fought with a courage that inspired allies and struck fear into their enemies. Aegis, its systems constantly evolving, provided the strategic edge needed to outmaneuver the Karn at every turn. As the war dragged on, the Eternal Dawn became more than just a ship, it became a legend. Stories of its exploits spread across the galaxy, boosting morale and rallying support for the Union's cause. Finally, after years of conflict, the Union launched a decisive assault on the Karn's homeworld. The Eternal Dawn, at the forefront of the attack, led the charge against the Karn's final defenses. The battle was brutal. The Karn fought with the desperation of a cornered animal, their weapons unleashing devastating firepower. But the Eternal Dawn, guided by Aegis and fueled by the determination of its crew, pressed on. In the end, it was the Eternal Dawn that delivered the final blow, destroying the Karn's command center and forcing their surrender. The war was over. As the crew celebrated their hard-fought victory, the captain looked out at the stars, his heart filled with pride. The Eternal Dawn had done the impossible, turning the tide of battle and securing peace for the galaxy. But as the ship returned to Union space, its crew knew their journey was far from over. The Eternal Dawn would continue to serve as a beacon of hope, a reminder of what could be achieved when courage, ingenuity, and determination came together. The legend of the Eternal Dawn would live on, inspiring generations to come.